We got some breaking news, a feel-good story coming out of Toronto, Ontario. A guy in Toronto was the one that found the one ring, the one of one, believed to be worth as much as currently, are you ready for this? $2.89 million. Now, I thought it was $2 million. That was a bounty coming from a Spanish company going back. A Spanish card reseller had publicly posted an offer of 2 million euros, which translates to 2.89 million Canadian. So not $2.89 million. That would be Canadian. So a little bit more than $2 million though. So that is absolutely wild. And then of course, David Adams had offered $1 million. So there is a lot going on here for this card. But the one thing that's kind of interesting is it doesn't sound like this guy is going to sell. Before we dive in further, big shout out to today's video sponsor, DC Sports 87. You've been wanting to sell on eBay, but you don't want to bother with the packaging and the shipping and all the nonsense that's associated with returns and this and that and whatever. DC Sports 87, huge consignment company that can take care of all that for you. They have a great website that updates everything as auctions end and people pay. You see it all happen in real time. They post 5,000 to 7,000 cards a day. Definitely check out DC Sports 87. All right, direct quote from this guy. My hands were literally shaking. I couldn't believe it was real. And this guy is a retail worker in Toronto. So this wasn't a multi-million-dollar thing. It wasn't, a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory situation, Augusta Gloop.
Augustus, please, don't do that. My chocolate must never be touched by human hands. Please, don't do that. Don't do that. You're contaminating my entire river. Please, I beg you, Augustus. My chocolate.
This was literally like a Charlie. This was an average Joe out there that kept it. Now, the thing that makes this card so interesting is because it is based on something where there is actually only one of them, that ring of power, the ring to rule them all. So it actually fits perfectly. In the sports card world, you have one of ones of any given player, and you've got 1,000 different one of ones. But the ring, if you go back to the story, it is that one ring to rule. So it's kind of cool how it all works out. And I think that that's what makes this card extra special. And it's kind of interesting that he might choose to hold on to it the same way that Frodo Baggins almost chose to hold on to it instead of almost getting knocked into the lava because he was going to keep it because it's so dang powerful. Now, the person has decided to remain anonymous according to this article. Oh, let me also say cbc.ca, great article here, and that's what I'm referencing. I will put a link to the article in the video description so you can go read it yourself. But the owner, the ring bearer, if you will, has chosen to remain anonymous to protect their precious. According to this article, a retail worker who lives in Toronto. Awesome. So a card shop, a collectible shop in Ontario, James Hammond, co-owner of Maximum Cards, was the one that gave advice to go to PSA. The card was authenticated by PSA, as we reported on earlier. Beckett put on a massive push to try to get this card, put it in a unique slab, a unique label, and everything would have been pretty cool. But it did go to PSA. It did get a 9, which doesn't really matter for this particular card because there's only one that exists. The card was not purchased at that store, but the person who made the life-changing pull is the cousin of a frequent customer. So according to the article, that's how they found Hammond and his shop. Now, what did Hammond do with it? How did it get to PSA? Brad, who we talked about at PSA Canada in another video, he is the one that handled it. He flew in, got the card, and delivered it himself to PSA. According to the article, Brad said, yeah, jump in line. You're the 20th person that said they had the card. So, and Brad had said this on a recent interview that we had talked about on the Because I'm Carlos channel, is there's a lot of people that were claiming to have the card. And so they did some due diligence. They found out this was the card. It was then authenticated by PSA. So it's been authenticated. Brad rounds out the article with, this is such a unique moment. I truly believe when someone buys this card, you're not going to see it on the marketplace again for a long, long time. So I guess that'll be the interesting thing. And maybe I misquoted here. I think it was actually Hammond that said to the ability to have the one ring, there's nothing out there like it. So it wasn't the owner that said it. It was the card shop owner, Hammond. So we don't know if he is going to sell. The assumption is that it probably goes to the highest bidder. Maybe he takes one of these bounties, or maybe there's people that come out of the woodwork now that this thing is getting a lot of press and maybe they do come in with a higher offer, or maybe he holds on to it for a while. This is one of those really unique kind of card moments, especially in the MTG space, where, serial numbered cards is not done as heavily, not even nearly as heavily as in sports cards. It's something that's fairly new. The thing that's amazing about MTG and also Pokemon cards is they sell out even though they don't really have any serialized cards, because of the deep collector base around those IPs, which speaks to the popularity of them globally. It's wild. But when you bring serialized numbered cards in, it then becomes more of a global chase. It does bring in more of the speculators / investors into that space. So while you do have some of that already, where you have people that are buying sealed product, Rudy Alpha Investments is one of these that, with the amount of product he's got, it has become somewhat of an investment. It's not really a hobby anymore for Rudy. He runs a business around it, and he's got tremendous amount of inventory in the millions and millions of dollars. So, for a lot of people that are buying and holding sealed product, it is with the assumption that over time it does go up in price, because frankly, if they just wanted the cards, they would just open up the boxes. So it's buying and holding that supply, because really it's done well over time. Now, I've speculated with Pokemon cards. I'm not going to talk necessarily about MTG, but with Pokemon, they're just making so much of it over the last year, over the last really 24 months, to where does that start dwindling, kind of that future, potential, because there's so much supply. And we'll just have to see. Right now, the demand for Pokemon cards is just insane. It's tremendous. So there hasn't been a whole lot of slowdown there with people buying into it. But the One Ring was pulled by a guy, or an average Joe in the Toronto area. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.